Turn it up.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to 3NN Podcast, the official podcast of open minds everywhere.
If you're listening to this, you are the future.
You are the future. Battle with us. Battle Skynet with us. Welcome, everybody. This is 3NN Podcast. I'm Nick Tesla.
Ryan McFadden.
And we're here to let you know that nothing is impossible. You know, because nothing really is impossible. Especially if you understand that all of this around us, what I'm experiencing right now, what you're experiencing right now, is only electrical signals being fired into a fucking computer, pardon my language, into a brain, or into a machine, into a computer inside of our skulls. So we're not actually experiencing all of this, Brian. We're not, what? No, it's all, could just be a dream. That's why I like to say this could all just be a dream. Because your eyes are interpreting signals, interpreting light signals, and turning that into pictures that are being fed to your brain. So that could be intercepted or that could be fake, you know what I'm saying? So it's all like in your head. So nothing really is impossible when you understand it's all in your head. All of this and every idea, every single thing that you see around you other than the trees. And hey, that could have been intelligent design itself. But everything came from an idea. Every man-made object came from an idea. Started in somebody's noggin. You know? And also, when a lot of people might have told some of these people, well, that's impossible. You can't do that. Well, in their head, it wasn't impossible. So nothing is impossible. All right. That was a little spiel.
Yeah,
probably a little bit too long on that particular subject. Whatever. All right. Today we're going to talk about time travel, Brian.
Yes,
We're going to talk about time travel. It's going to be a super fantastic funkadelic episode. Get ready to be pulled into a black hole of knowledge or lack thereof.
Well, Nick did most of the research for this one, and as I said to him before the show, if time travel is possible, the thing that scares me the most is the Terminator.
Well, I've been researching my entire life. This is something I've been interested in since I was since I wore younger man's clothes, I guess you could say. But where we're going to start with today is, I know a lot of people are probably just tuning into this, could be tuning into us for the first time, and think, oh, here we go, another group of guys or another couple of guys who think that that time travel is real, and there's all these examples of it out there that are real, and some of those examples are just nonsense. Well, I'm going to sit here and we're going to start off by reading you a mentalfloss.com article, basically debunking 11 different time travel myths that are out there. Time travel, I don't want to say myths because some of them could be real, some of them are still up in the air as to whether or not they were real or not, but we're not going to sit here and say, oh, well, it's definitely real because of this. We just think these are interesting cases that could possibly, if not today, one day, explain the existence of time travel, which is mind-boggling to 99% of the people out there. And some of it is nonsense, Brian.
I was on Netflix, and I was watching that show Terra Nova from a few years ago, where they had this giant CERN-looking Stargate type thing that took them back in time to the Cretaceous period. And all hell broke loose, and somebody brought back a private military because they wanted to steal the minerals out of the ground back then because uranium and things like that were very rich.
It gets kind of nonsensical like that. Some of these actual people that are trying to say that they're time travelers gets kind of nonsensical. And I've realized it's like, what happens when I decide myself, think about schizophrenia and how it's very easy to have false memories and have ideas about yourself, delusions about yourself that are completely false, but you completely believe those delusions. Okay? So imagine somebody who's schizophrenic or something like that, and it's a mild case, but they have these delusions that they are a time traveler, and they come out with it, and they could be put on a lie detector test, and they're telling the truth, because to them, it is the truth. And I don't see anybody, when you hear people talking about time travelers and cases of alleged time travelers, or people have come out and said that they are time travelers, you don't see anybody talking about, well, anybody in the circles that we run talking about, well, maybe they have a mental disorder. maybe this person, just like some people see shadow people and think shadow people are real, maybe this person has a mental disorder. You know what I'm saying? Maybe this person has studied a lot of different stuff and sees that the U.S. government has been interested in the past and even presently interested in time travel and have believed that somehow they were a part of that program. Because if you know
who else was
schizophrenic
heavily
mindset,
interested,
they
though?
believe that the U.S. government has done something to them.
Yeah, you know who else was very interested? Adolf Hitler. and
Adolf
the
Hitler
Nazis.
was very interested, and I think we're going to get a little bit
Do you
into
have
that.
anything on Antarctica and the Nazis?
No, I don't. That's probably a whole nother show. I guess maybe if we do another Hollow Earth show, which is another out there concept. But if you know about Admiral Byrd, Richard T. Byrd.
Well, I was going to say there's a theory with that they didn't necessarily find Hollow Earth entrance, but that they actually found a portal back in time.
I don't know if they found a portal back in time, or they may have discovered what eventually led to the bell, the Nazi bell, and the Nazi bell was suspected of being either a spacecraft. But if you look at the Nazi bell, that's like, if you look at the Nazi bell and you look at alien spacecraft or hover technology, even experimental hover technology of the time, the Nazi bell did not look like that. The Nazi bell looked much more like some other sort of advanced technology, and there's a lot of people who speculate that the Nazi bell was definitely a time machine and that it was 15 feet tall so that you could put people inside of it and transport them back in time. And there's people who believe that the Kecksburg incident, Kecksburg, Pennsylvania UFO crash incident was not actually a UFO, was actually Adolf Hitler inside of the Nazi bell. And that's why it was covered up so immensely. Of course, they always cover up UFO crashes.
Well, I keep
anyway.
hearing the two different theories. One, he escaped to Brazil, and one, he escaped to Antarctica.
Exactly. And I personally, I've seen some pictures of what looked like an older Adolf Hitler who just like lived out his life kind of peacefully. Yeah. And that's kind of the story that I latch onto as the truth. But then again, each one of these stories has aspects to them. Each one of these stories about what happened to Hitler has aspects to them that are totally believable. Especially the more you research into what kind of things the Thule Society and what kind of things that the Nazis were into and what kind of things they researched, it becomes abundantly clear that almost anything was possible. You know what I'm saying? Almost anything was possible with them. They were interested in the occult. They were interested in the esoteric. They were interested in the paranormal. They were interested in so many different things. Quantum physics. So it's not like, they were just
UFOs.
interested in this weird things. No, they were interested in also like advanced technology that we knew about at the time and maybe even didn't know about at the time, and somehow they knew about that we now know about, but they knew about at the time. Like they were into some really deep into a lot of different fields. So when you think about all the possibilities of what could have happened to Hitler, it's like when you know about all the different things that they were invested in, it's like, well, each one of those different things could have protected him or pulled him away or had a plan set up for him to continue his life away from the Nazi regime that's been destroyed, or the above ground Nazi regime that's been destroyed, while he sets up an underground Nazi regime that eventually runs the world, which explains why our world is
how it is.
It is such a shitty place.
Harp and chemtrails.
But then again,
chemtrails.
But then again, our world is not as shitty of a place as people would like to have you think. You know what I'm saying? It's what is it? It's the beginning of March here in the northeast of the United States, and it feels fucking amazing. It feels amazing to feel the weather changing from cold to warm. And nobody's going to tell me, oh, well, we live in a horrible place. Oh, look at the environment. It's just horrible global warming. I don't want to hear all that. We live in a beautiful, beautiful place still. We are blessed with this. And we need to try and find a way that we can stop over-regulation, but also protect this planet and protect this beautiful thing that we have here, so that our grandchildren and their grandchildren can also experience this beautiful thing. And I agree with like some of what Leonardo DiCaprio said in his shit, but also it feels like contrived. Like there's there's an organization behind it, and then no organization is going to protect our planet. We, the people, are going to protect our planet, and that's what it comes down to. And we're not going to be regulated to protect the planet. We are going to decide ourselves that we want to hand down and pass down a beautiful apple to our grandchildren instead of a rotten piece of fruit with bugs and maggots and shit infesting it. You know what I'm saying? Think of it in that mindset, and you're like, oh my God, we do got to really cherish what we have here. Like when you drive through, or you ride the train through Camden, right? You ride the River Line coming back through Camden. You see all of these, literally, like, these buildings that have fallen apart and are literally just rubble, and only barely parts of them still stand. And it's like, how do we not, as a people, I don't mean how is the government not stepped up and done something? I understand the government's got budget deficits and yada yada, but how is we as a people not stepped up and turned them into gardens and maybe planted new forests there or something like that? How come?
Finley.
But why have we not? Why have we as a people?
Ron Finley.
One person?
Guerrilla gardening.
Exactly. Guerrilla gardening. Did you see that thing I posted on my Facebook about the guerrilla gardening group well, actually, they're more a marijuana activist or legalization activism group, but they've tossed so many cannabis seeds all over England that there's just wild weed growing up everywhere. And it's they've done it to kind of, and they've thrown it in like abandoned lots, so it's like everywhere
if they did that here, the U.S. government would try them for terrorism.
But the thing is, how do you nail down who's really doing that? I don't know. It's like it's not, but you almost see it as, well, it's really not that big a deal. If they were just throwing seeds and this stuff's growing like with everything else, then why are we treating this like it's crack or something like that? Do you see people out here like, oh my God, weed! Oh, I gotta get it up! Oh my God, I want it up! No, people are just leaving it be because it's just a plant. You know what I'm saying? So if they're treating it like it's just a plant, why does the big bad government treat it like it's crack rock cocaine or some shit like that? You know what I'm saying? It hasn't even been processed. But then again, there's also pesticides and things like that, which when it comes to legalization, we have to be careful that we don't let marijuana get legalized, but also let companies, we don't let companies like Monsanto change the genetics of marijuana, and we also don't let big conglomerates like R.J. Reynolds and the such. I'm not saying they would actually get involved in this, but similar conglomerates popping up, we can't let them pop up, and where they're going to have giant 10,000 to 100,000 acre plots of land where they're growing weed, and they're just spraying tons of pesticides all over them or what they think are healthy pesticides for the plants that aren't going to kill the plants and still make them good weed, but the residuals we're still smoking. We are lighting. We are physically lighting on fire and inhaling the residual pesticides
first you need
and herbicides.
You need a shift in policy.
Yes.
As of right now, the federal government could just turn to you and say, well,
you do,
hold on a second, why are you
be
smoking it? Do you have
but see, the thing is, it's changing. It's definitely changing. It's changing over the next 10 years. It'll probably change tenfold, and it'll be a completely different thing. It'll be treated like alcohol. But the thing is, we're going to be hoodwinked. Listen to my words. Read my lips. We will be hoodwinked into a system like cigarettes. Of course, the weed will not really be bad for you unless Monsanto gets their hands on the genetics, which they can change it and make it like cigarettes, where for some reason they feel the need to add nicotine into the genetics of marijuana so that people really actually get addicted to weed. Yeah. And we have weed junkies out there who are fucking ruin their lives because they were already somewhat addicted to marijuana just because it was fucking so relaxing and so awesome and such a good break for them every now and then. And now all of a sudden there's nicotine in it, so they need it every day, multiple times a day, and it's become a whole nother thing. That's what we're going to get hoodwinked into, is the pharmaceutical industry is going to step into that role, I think, and try and get people hooked on their weed, which in all reality, weed is always going to be good for you unless they really fuck with the genetics, but it's going to have the pesticides on it. You're not going to be getting it from Joe Blow down the street who's growing it in his closet, or getting it from a little warehouse grow operation in California or Colorado or some shit. You're not going to be getting it from there.
It'll come in little cigarette packs.
It's going to come in little cigarette packs or little pill bottles or whatever the hell it is, but that shit you're going to be getting is going to come from a field where there's literally a yield of 1 million pounds pounds or 2 million or 5 million pounds a year coming off of that field, and there's so much pesticides being sprayed on that shit because they don't have any other way to really control that shit, and we're going to end up thinking, oh my god, what a wonderful world. Weed is finally legal. And every time we smoke weed, we're actually adding onto, with the processed food, with the cigarettes, with the fucking, the environmental shit if you live in a city, with all that, we're adding onto our health effects, and we're going to be like, well, how the hell did I get lung cancer? I've been smoking weed for the past 10 years. I quit smoking cigarettes once weed became legal, because it's like, why not? How the hell do I have lung cancer? I thought weed was supposed to reverse that. No, those fucking pesticides that you're fucking lighting a fucking lighter to every night, that's what's giving you lung cancer. People aren't aware of that. We're just so like hooked on, oh, let's get it legal.
It's like vaccines and autism.
So speaking of time travel, another show, I'd like to travel to the future and see that I'm right, because I know that's what's going to happen, and it's
oh, that's all you care about is being right, huh?
No, I just would like to see that that I was right, and I can come back and warn everybody and find a way to really warn everybody. But I don't think people would care. They'll more just be happy with it being legalized rather than the scariness of it being overregulated, or the scariness of conglomerates stepping up and dominating the weed trade.
I think if everybody followed the Colorado model,
people will die. Little guys selling weed on the street, they'll fucking die. They'll get killed, like Eric Garner. You know what I'm saying? Like, whoa. You're not supposed to be selling this stuff. The big company, R.J. Reynolds, has the corner on this stuff. There's laws that say you're not allowed to sell little dime bags out on the street because your stuff doesn't have pesticides on it, or is pesticide free, and you know all about that. Well, you're not allowed to do that, and if you do that, you're going to get harassed by the police and take a chance on being killed by the police just because.
Just like Lavoy Finicum, who wasn't growing anything, but he was killed by the police.
He was growing cotton or something, wasn't he? All right, ready? We got to get on to time travel, Brian. All right, let's travel forward past that, the marijuana activism topic. All right, and speaking of the East Coast Cannabis Coalition 2016 Unity Cypher, go check it out. It's going to be some amazing shit. It's like basically from Maine to Florida, they're carrying a giant joint, like the Olympic torch. They're carrying it from Maine to Florida down the I-95 corridor to raise awareness for marijuana legalization and activism. Okay, so check that out, people. All right, time travel. What did I say about time travel?
We are going to 11 things that were debunked.
Exactly, 11 things that can almost debunk themselves. It's not like they were debunked, but could almost debunk themselves. And Rich, I wish you were here. He tried to debunk one on us, and pretty good job, but it's not like that was concrete debunking. And if you were here, maybe you could argue that it was a concrete debunking, but since you're not, we're going to say that it wasn't a concrete debunking. But you'll hear what I'm talking about when it comes to the guy with the 2 tattoos on his arm or whatever. All right, so the first one I've never even heard of, all right? Billy Meyer and the Plagiarin. I can just tell by the name of it that the guy took 13 hits of acid and lost his mind one day. And finally, when he came back 4 days later, he was like, you won't believe what happened to me. I was traveling through time. And they'll be like, Billy, you were on the couch for 3 days straight, okay? You wouldn't get up. I don't think that you're traveling through time. No, you don't understand. All right, so I don't know Billy Meyer, but that's what it sounds like.
Okay, Billy, what's with the piss stains all over your pants?
Exactly. Billy pissed himself, and he's like, no, you don't understand. I was in the ocean. Here we go. Not many time travelers have photo albums with snapshots of their journeys. Meet Billy Meyer. Okay, so he wasn't just sitting on the couch. He's got photos, son. He's got a photo album. Like, come in and see my time travel photo album. It's really cool. All right, in the 1970s, the Swiss-born Meyer was taken on a few chronological joyrides by a race of extraterrestrials called the Plagiarin. They showed him.
Never heard of them.
That actually seems more believable than the whole rest of these stories. But I digress. They showed him prehistoric Earth with dinosaurs, the surface of ancient Mars, and even introduced him to Emmanuel, the real Jesus. Meyer's holiday pics of the Plagiarin spacecraft turned out to be an inventively decorated garbage can lid. The dinosaurs were blurry shots of illustrations from a book called Life Before Man, and the pretty Plagiarin girls, photos that Meyer had taken of dancers from the Dean Martin show on his TV screen. So Meyer was literally schizophrenic. Okay, or close to it. All right, he has some sort of mental disorder where he was taking pictures of trash can lids and the Dean Martin show, and like, look, I traveled through time. But see, the thing is, he could have taken all those pictures and everybody could have been like, you liar, you liar. But in his mind, no, that trash can lid, he never took a picture of a trash can lid. He took a picture of a UFO up in the sky because through his perception, that's what he saw himself doing. Or that's what his memory told himself he did. Okay? So he might not have thought that because 50% of people who suffer from schizophrenia don't know that they're suffering from any mental disorder and refuse to acknowledge that they have any sort of mental disorder. Okay? So that's something to know about schizophrenics, that some of these people are never going to be able to acknowledge. And it's not like they don't want to acknowledge.
Remember,
no, they don't.
You never know. They
have no idea.
Some of them could be controlled by drugs, MK Ultras.
Yes,
like that.
yes. And then that's, we'll get into Al Bielek in a little bit. I don't even know if this 11 Time Traveler Urban Legends thing, I don't know if this gets into Al Bielek and the Montauk Project and Philadelphia Experiment. But I know one thing we are going to be touching on ourselves, okay, is Rudolph Fentz, okay? In 1950, a man with mutton chop sideburns and Victorian-era duds popped up in Times Square. Witnesses said he looked startled, and then a minute later, he was hit by a car and killed. On his person, the police found 19th century money, a letter dated 1876, and business cards with his name, Rudolph Fentz. None of these items showed signs of aging, and Mrs. Rudolph Fentz was tracked down. She was the widow of Rudolph Fentz Jr., and the story went that Jr.'s dad disappeared mysteriously in 1876. Weird, right? Eventually it was discovered that this urban legend originated from a 1950 short story written by Jack Finney. Finney would go on to write the classics Invasion of the Body Snatchers and Time and Again. On that right there, Rudolph Fentz, there's actually, within the past, I believe 10 years, there's been new evidence that has surfaced that Rudolph Fentz did, as a matter of fact, exist and did disappear in 1876 and did die in 1950 or 1951. So, and there's accounts from his actual family members, Rudolph Fentz, not Rudolph Fentz Jr., the widow of Rudolph Fentz Jr., who says that Rudolph Fentz Jr. often remarked that his father disappeared in 1876, but no mention of that he reappeared in 1950 or anything like that, but that it was well known throughout the family that Rudolph Fentz disappeared in 1876. So there's conflicting reports. A lot of people tried to say that it was these short stories, but this report from the widow of Rudolph Fentz Jr., I believe that report was found, like it was written in 1948 or something, before these short stories were written. So if you look into the whole Rudolph Fentz thing, you'll find that it could be debunked, but then again, there's actually conflicting stuff that shows that it may very well have actually been real. But a lot of people try and say, well, there's no real news reports on it, but there is a news report on it, I believe, from like 1949 or something. Not 1949, like the 1960s or something. There's a news report on it in like England or something, talking about the situation. So I don't know. Very interesting. Rudolph Fentz, definitely check it out. John Titor. John Titor, whatever.
However the hell he pronounces it.
Yep. So this is one of the more interesting ones, and this is one of the ones you can kind of lose your mind going down the rabbit hole of how much stuff he put out there. You can, if you're the type of person who feels like that the truth isn't out there, or that there's nothing paranormal or nothing out there wacky that could go on in this world, and everything's just by the book and science explains everything, you could take a look at this John Titor thing and think it's complete and total nonsense, because half of his predictions weren't even close or aren't even close to on point. But I don't know, something to definitely look into. This is what the 11 Time Traveler Urban Legends thing says, that apparently it debunks itself. I'm not really sure. How's life in the year 2036? Food and livestock is grown locally. People spend much more time reading and talking together face to face. Religion is taken seriously, and everyone can multiply and divide in their heads. That's an entry from John Titor. Titor, a traveler from the future, first showed up on internet discussion boards in the year 2000, making predictions about the years ahead. In 2001, he returned to the year 2036. Most of his predictions did not come true. That's what they say. That's what they say. All right, the Chronovisor. Not so much time travel as time voyeurism. The Chronovisor, a magic television camera that could tune into times and places from the past, was invented in the 1950s by a Benedictine monk named Father Pellegrino Ernetti. He used it to film the crucifixion, and that footage, along with the Chronovisor itself, is now reportedly hidden away in the vaults of the Vatican. That one I'd never even really heard about.
That's kind of interesting.
So that's something to look in for anybody out there if they want to try to
because you know how secretive
themselves.
the Vatican is.
Yeah. But
got some weird
then
shit
again, the
going
fact
on
that it
behind
just
the scenes.
disappears into the vaults of the Vatican could mean that it was actually all just nonsense and it was just rumor. And this guy said he had the video, or somebody said he had the video, but nobody ever really saw it. You know what I'm saying?
So
It was
far,
fantastic.
out of all the ones we've read so far, that's the one I'd be most likely to believe.
I'd be most likely to research that more myself, that's for sure. Henry Fonda. In the 1948 movie Fort Apache, there's a brief moment when Fonda's character appears to be checking his stagecoach route on an iPhone. Which all of these that I've come across, all of these cell phones in the past,
Yeah.
I fully believe that it's either a notepad, like this guy's holding it in his hand, looking down at it. That's a notepad, okay? Especially he's like a Confederate soldier or something like that, so
Yeah.
he might have a notepad for taking notes about stuff, right? So,
Most of them would back then.
but the other ones that you see with people holding something up to their ear and looking like they may be talking, you notice that the people aren't talking the entire time, so it doesn't really look like they're having a full-on conversation, okay? But I know it could be said, well, their mouths do move, so they are talking. Well, they're not. Their mouths aren't constantly moving, all right? So it doesn't look like they're having a conversation, one, to me. And two, if you know about back in the day, people would have radios, handheld radios, that they could listen to. And yes, it wasn't they weren't everywhere. It's not like everybody had them, but they were around.
Kind of
People
like when cell
did
phones
have
first came
handheld
out. Only a few
radios.
people had them.
Yes,
Yeah.
and there were also other things called, but the precursor to the hearing aid was actually something that people held up to their ear, and it actually had a little funnel inside of it that funneled the outside noise more easily than their ear canal could. So it funneled the outside noise and brought it in and concentrated it into the person's ear. But it looked like a little, almost like one of those handheld radios. So when you hear people talking about that, I think they like to think that they know that that's a cell phone, that somebody back in the day has a cell phone. I'm not saying it's not possible that somebody back in the day had a cell phone, but a lot of these people you see with cell phones. The Charlie Chaplin film, that's a little bit, that can be almost convincing because the lady's got such huge feet. There's something else there that is weird. But the rest of these people, they're just chicks walking with their friends or something. And it's like, don't you think there would be some sort of random stories here and there, whether they be unsolved mysteries or something stupid like that? But don't you think that there would be some sort of stories out there of somebody's grandmom telling them about their friend who had this weird wireless telephone or cordless telephone that was the size of a handheld radio that they could dial numbers in and call people? Like, don't you think that there would be some hints that some people had that access to that stuff? It wouldn't just be completely wiped out. And I'm not talking about evidence of it on the internet. I'm talking about evidence of it in people's stories of their families and this and that. And it's like, well, I had a friend, you won't believe this, but back in 1932 I had a friend who had, I swear to God, it was a cell phone. You don't hear that. You don't hear people having these stories of somebody who had a cell phone back in the day. So that to me is enough evidence to say that those are kind
True.
of nonsense and bunk, and I don't really believe them. The Charlie Chaplin one's weird to me because the chick's got size 14 feet or something, and it's there's something wrong with that in general. Okay, I'm not even so much more worried about the what could be a cell phone. I'm more worried about what's going on with this lady's feet. Anyway,
Nick is weird at times, ladies and gentlemen.
Andrew Carlson, okay? Now, this one, just so everybody knows, started in the Weekly World News, okay? This is what they said. The alarm bells went off on Wall Street and with the SEC in 2002 when unknown investor Andrew Carlson quickly parlayed $800 into $350 million via some high-risk stock trades. Carlson was arrested. He confessed that he was from the year 2256. It turns out the story originated from that ever-sensational source of fakery, the Weekly World News. 10 years on, the story is still being reprinted and circulated. But there's actually people out there that have claimed to interviewed Carlson and that he is still around. He never really disappeared. He is still around, and he listen to this. All right, this is what I watched a few different videos on this last night, and this was what I heard about Carlson. Okay, I'm giving away a lot of my information, but it's come bubble into my head, and I don't want to not put it out there because this sounds crazy, right? There's somebody out there, a video I watched about this Carlson guy that said that after he disappeared, he popped back up and somebody had interviewed him. Some paranormal or UFO website was able to interview him, right? And when they interviewed him, he said that in 2007 he's going to be incorporating a company that is pretty much going to change the world. He's taking some knowledge that he has from the future and is going to apply it and try and do right for the world or do the world better, right? And then I guess I'm pretty sure in this thing that
Let
I
me
watched...
guess, he started ISIS.
No. In this thing that I watched, it's really actually quite interesting because they didn't connect the two dots. I kind of connected them myself, and I'm probably wrong, but still interesting, is another person interviewed him, or another website or something, or media outlet interviewed him, and he said that his company, he was moving forward with his company, and that they would be incorporating, and he wanted to keep all the name of the company a secret and where they were located a secret. But basically, what they were doing was they were applying a technology from the future, whereas you can take any kind of oil from anything that has oil in it and extract the oil out of it for $1 a barrel.
That'd be interesting.
Okay, but what popped up in the past 10, 15 years? I just heard that, right?
Fracking?
He was saying he started his company, was starting it up around 2007. What popped up in the past 10, 15
Fracking?
years? Fracking.
Pipelines?
What's happened in the past 10 years? Gas is slowly but surely going down, down, down. You remember 2008 when Obama came in?
Yep.
That
Yep,
shit
yep, yep.
was expensive. And of course people like to say, oh, that was Obama. Obama really, he did us right. He lowered gas prices.
I saw
But
gas stations when I was driving around for work where it's like $1.49 a gallon.
I've heard the reason why our gas is so cheap is because the market is flooded. And why would the market be flooded? Because all of a sudden, all these people who were interested in investing in oil and knew that the oil game was locked up realized they could go bust open a mountain and take all of that dirt and all that shit that's inside that mountain, whereas before that would have been unusable oil because it's tar sands or whatever the hell they want to call it. It's got stuff in it and it's not really usable, and it's very hard to filter that stuff out and produce usable oil. Well, now all of a sudden they can take all that and it's no longer very hard to produce usable oil. You can take anything that has oil in it and extract the oil from it very cheaply. So it's like, hold up. That's what I've kind of been told is that the market's been flooded, and fracking is a big reason of that because now all of a sudden fracking is offering us a shitload of domestic oil where we don't have to go and get our oil internationally. And
It's
the
also
international
causing a shitload of earthquakes.
Well, the international people are lowering their prices, so the domestic people can't compete because the domestic people were like, well, shit, this is the price of oil. Well, this is what we're going to put it on the market for. And people were like, well, I think they put it a little bit lower than what the price was. And fucking Saudis and all them were like, wait. You're selling your oil cheaper than us? Like, no. You're getting your oil cheaper than you've been getting it from us. Then we'll just lower it cheaper than what those people are giving it to you for. And you don't care if it's domestic. If you can get it cheaper, you're going to get it cheaper from whoever.
Yeah.
So the American people that are getting it from fracking are like, all right, we got to lower our price. Well, Saudis are lowering their price, and what's happening for us, the consumer? All of a sudden, we're getting close to $1 a gallon for gas. It's because the market has been flooded by fracking. And when you think about the Carlson story, it's like, did he almost not invent fracking, but did he invent the filtration process once fracking is completed to turn that into usable oil? Whereas before fracking, once you took the oil from the ground and you destroyed the mountain, the cost of that plus the cost of filtration and turning it into usable oil, it wasn't worth doing because you weren't going to make money off of it. The Saudis already had the market. It was you were going to have to charge more for your oil than the Saudis because of how much it costs to extract it and purify it. Whereas now, it's just the cost of extracting it. Purifying it is nothing. Purifying it's a penny to the pound. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing. So, I don't know. So the Carlson thing, that hit me. When I saw that little documentary, if people want to look into Andrew Carlson, that really hit me as like, that's very interesting on Andrew Carlson. But then again, somebody could just be making that up. I didn't see any sources. Nobody listed sources in that video. So it's like, that's what aggravates me about a lot of these time travel things is there's just vague sources and nobody wants to really dig deep and get to the actual truth of it. They'd much rather just be like, but we have evidence of a time traveler. You don't understand. And it's like, well, hold on.
Okay, you told me your theory. Now, where's this evidence?
Yeah. Now, the 1941 hipster, this guy is crazy. If you ever get a chance to look at his picture. He is wearing a screen-printed T-shirt, wearing some what looks like Ray-Ban sunglasses, even though they look a little bit older than that. He's wearing a hoodie, kind of like what me or you would wear. And he's got a small camera handheld camera, which were not even invented at that time. Handheld cameras were not available at that time. Were not readily available at that time.
Well, you know, they do use predictive programming. We have to remember that, too.
But what do you mean? This video, or this picture, was released by an archive that they released a picture and didn't say, hey, check out this guy in this picture. They released a picture and somebody stumbled across the picture and was like, that guy seems completely out of place, and started spreading it around the internet, and it went viral. But nobody put this out as like, you got to check this out. It's the time traveler from the past. It's like, no, this guy was just in this picture forever, and somebody on the internet stumbled across it and was like, wait. Something doesn't seem right about this guy. And there's multiple pictures of people that seem just completely out of place for the time that the picture was taken, but there's no evidence that shows that picture was ever altered or came from a different source than what it purports in the picture. You know what I'm saying? But it's clearly obvious that the person in the picture stands out like a sore thumb, like they don't belong in that time almost, like whether it be their clothes or just the way they look. All right, this is about the hipster, because this is the time traveling hipster is one of the most famous and one of the harder ones to debunk in all reality. Okay, yeah, you can just say he's wearing different clothes, and nobody wore different clothes back then, but when you look at all the people around him, and you look at him, come on, he's got a freaking 5 o'clock shadow with sunglasses on. I don't know anybody in 1941 that has a 5 o'clock shadow with sunglasses and a hoodie on and a screen printed t-shirt. It's like me or you went back into the past or something. It's just not right. All right, this is what it says. In the midst of a hat and suit crowd shown in a photograph from 1941, there's a young man who seems wildly out of place. He's wearing new wave sunglasses, what appears to be a t-shirt, and he's holding a portable camera. Turns out the sunglasses were unusual, but not unknown at the time. The tee was a leather sweater, and the camera was a Kodak folding pocket model. Still, that was 10 years before the concept of the teenager was born, so give the young dude props for being ahead of his time in self-expression. Could be. See, a lot of people try and say that camera was not available, and maybe that camera was available, the camera that they say he's wearing. They say it's a leather sweater. I don't believe that that's a leather sweater. If you look at what he's wearing, there's too many layers.
I don't
there.
have this article because it's...
I thought you had the Facebook thing. I put the picture up on Facebook today, I think. Alright, so enough said about the traveling hipster. Time traveling hipster.
Is that this dude?
The guy with sunglasses.
South Fork Bridge?
Yeah. South Fork Bridge, which I'll read my little...
Is he wearing headphones?
Nah. But he does look out of place, and anybody
really does.
He doesn't look out of place, or
he really does.
He was just a styling young man. It's like, do you see pictures of crowds of anywhere else where there's styling young men at that age or at that year? No, that style wasn't invented yet. So how the hell is he wearing it? You know what I'm saying? Not invented for 80 years. Not like, not invented for 20 years or so. He's just real ahead of the curve. No. All right, John Krasinski. I don't even think I've ever heard of this one. Could Jim from The Office be a time traveler? Or maybe a vampire? When an 1835 portrait painting by Danish artist Christian Kopke was noted to bear a striking resemblance to actor John Krasinski, the story went viral. Wow, seems a little highbrow for NBC marketing, Krasinski said, but I like it. There's many pictures out there of what look like celebrities, celebrities that are celebrities nowadays, pictures of them from the past. Some of them are famous people. Some of them are not famous people. But there's many pictures out there, and all you got to do is look up celebrity history time travelers or celebrity doppelgangers, history doppelgangers. You'll find a lot of them. There's one of Jay-Z. There's two of Barack Obama. Barack Obama at a JFK event as a part of the crowd, and it's, I don't say pretty clearly Obama, but it's pretty clearly Obama, and he's not 15 years old or 17 years old or 18 years old. It's looking like Obama like now. It's looking like Obama maybe 5-10 years ago at the most, but not young Obama, not young Barry Soetoro. You know what I'm saying? And then there's also another one of Obama in Victorian era London, I believe.
What the hell?
And he's wearing like a big top hat. And that one's like, it's clearer
I could see
than the
him
JFK
in a top
picture.
Hat. I haven't seen this picture, but I could picture him in a top hat. That would work for Obama.
Well, when you hear about Andrew Basiago trying to say that he time traveled he time traveled in the Project Pegasus and also met Obama on Mars.
Yeah,
it sounds so crazy and so weird, but then all of a sudden you see a picture of what looks like Obama from Victorian era, and you're like, wow. Well, should I let my brain go there? Should I let my mind go there and say that it's even remotely
Down the rabbit hole we go!
You know what I'm saying? All right.
Hell yeah.
And then you got the 1928 cell phone lady we were just talking about, Charlie Chaplin film. This is what they got to say about her. A woman walks through a film premiere crowd in Los Angeles talking on her cell. Not so remarkable until you consider the year is 1928. The clip from bonus material on a DVD of Charlie Chaplin's The Circus hit the internet in 2010. Never mind the obvious questions about non-existent satellites and cell towers back in the Jazz Age. The device was most likely an early hearing aid. Still, the clip is mind-teasingly fun to watch. See, and what people try and say is, well, you see her mouth moving. And it's like, another one, explanation, maybe she was schizophrenic and had a brick or something that she liked to carry around and talk to this brick and talk into the brick or something. You know what I'm saying? It's like the people like
Maybe
to just.
it's possible.
People like to throw the concept of mental illness when it comes to any of these out the window. Like, no. The person was definitely not mentally ill. Why not? Why not? This lady could have been talking to her size 2 shoe or something. You know what I'm saying? All right. This one I love the best. This is my favorite of all the time travel stories. Maybe because it's local. Also, maybe because it's the most insane and the most close to being verified to having some truth to it. The Philadelphia experiment. According to legend, in a secret experiment done in 1943, this is also involved Al Bielek, the U.S. Navy was able to render the destroyer USS Eldridge invisible, then dematerialize it and transport it from Philadelphia to Norfolk, Virginia, and back again. One account insists the ship went backwards in time by a full 10 seconds, though how that was determined is still sketchy. The experiment reportedly had terrible side effects, such as causing sailors to remain invisible. Secret government projects often foster all kinds of fanciful tales, but this one has endured and was even the basis of a 1984 movie. And there's many...
Does it name the movie?
The Philadelphia Experiment.
Oh.
It's a pretty good movie. I don't know.
I'm going to check Netflix.
It's a little off. Al Bielek says that the first 12 minutes of the movie, or the first 12 minutes of the actual experiment, when they start the experiment, are almost completely accurate and true to life. After that, it kind of goes off the deep end, or kind of like strays off into story mode and isn't telling the truth. But he says like the first 12 minutes of the actual experiment are true to life. People being merged with the bulkheads, and you know what I'm saying, like some crazy stuff. And I find the Philadelphia experiment very interesting. I find I've done more research into the Philadelphia experiment than any one of these, and I've found it being debunked, but then I've also found the debunking being debunked itself. So, I don't know. It comes back to, I believe, some guy's diary, the notes being written in the side of the diary or in the margins of the diary. Like, the Philadelphia experiment goes deep, and from my at least year or two research into it, on and off research into it, more than a couple years ago now, but what I came to the conclusion of was that most likely it was true, but it's so insane that it's almost preferable to let us believe that it's not true, just because of how insane it is. You know what I'm saying? Let people believe that it's not true, and let people try and debunk the debunking, but the debunking is still out there. People will latch onto that and say that it's obviously not true because it's been debunked. You know what I'm saying? But
just look at flat earthers.
That will really hurt your brain. The whole Philadelphia experiment thing will hurt your brain because it leaves you with unanswered questions. And I think that's also why a lot of people say it can't be true, because there wouldn't be unanswered questions. But that's BS. You have everybody has unanswered questions, whether it be about the ghost of their dead grandmom, or you know what I'm saying? Like, everybody has unanswered questions. Don't say, oh, something's not true because you have unanswered questions afterwards. No, you gotta try and answer those questions instead of saying, oh, well, can't be true because I can't answer that question right now. What? All right. And then this is one that Rich tried to debunk, or Rich said that he debunked or looked into and was able to find that it was fake. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I'm leaning towards the maybe it is. Hakan Nordqvist. Okay? Talk about pipe dreams. While doing a little DIY plumbing, Nordqvist slipped through a wormhole in time and was suddenly confronted by an older version of himself. The two talked, they compared tattoos, they bonded, and Nordqvist filmed it on his phone. Reportedly, it was all part of an advertising campaign by an insurance company to promote the benefits of pension plans. Here's the problem, okay? That company, if you watch their ads, it makes a lot of sense that that's one of their ads. But that company has never once come out and said that that's one of their ads. But this guy, Hakan Nordqvist, is non-existent. There's no Hakan Nordqvist in the country he says he's from, or in the area he says he's from. There's no Hakan Nordqvist that lives there, and his story is just a little bit too off. But then again, you'll find there's some documentaries out there talking about different time travel stories, and they mention his and how it could be theoretically possible, and they don't even mention that it may have been part of an ad. So everybody know that more than likely this was an AMF ad, American Mutual Finances, or American AFM, I think it's called. Oh, I don't even know.
Whatever the hell it's called.
I have it pulled off. AMF? Did I say AMF?
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's
American,
AMF Insurance.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's American. I don't know. If you want to see some of their commercials, go to www.fb.se and look for the AMF ones, so the videos that are labeled with AMF. And you can kind of get an idea of how their commercials are just as weird and just as themed as that guy's thing. So a lot of people think it was a viral ad campaign, and they've never denied it, but they've never claimed that it was true.
Unless maybe the guy's story is real, and that's what inspired this company to do these kind of ads, because they knew.
Could have been, but a lot of their ads are the exact same thing, just not portrayed as being real, or of your younger self meeting your older self. So it's like,
Yeah.
Between the speculation of it, I kind of lean towards it. But then again, anything could be true, and we could be led to believe that it is just an ad. And it's very similar to that ad, because we don't want you to know that this guy found a portal from underneath his sink that leads him to the future. That just sounds fantastical. His story of, I came home, there's water on the sink in the kitchen, so I went under the sink to, or there's water on the floor in the kitchen. I went under the sink to check the pipes and couldn't reach them. Okay, and if you see a picture of what is supposedly his house and his kitchen, the pipes, you open up the cabinet and the pipes are literally 6 inches in front of your face. So I don't know how you can't reach them, but he says he couldn't reach them. So he had to climb into the cabinet to reach them, and when he finally climbed into the cabinet to reach them, he realized that the cabinet just kept going back and back and back, and it was almost like never ending. So he followed it, and eventually
that sounds like Nightmare on Elm Street.
Eventually it turned into a tunnel, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and when he reached the end of the tunnel, he could stand, and when he came out and that light opened up, he was in a field, and he just knew it was the future, and standing in front of him was his 70-year-old self, and he started talking to his 70-year-old
standing in the
self.
middle of a Monsanto cornfield.
And it's like, without the video, everybody would just completely disregard the guy. But with the video and him and his 70-year-old self showing the same tattoos, it's like, oh my God, it probably is real. But that one, where we don't really like to do our research, but there's really nothing out there. If you really look into it, there's no concrete proof that company created that advertisement. But there's also no concrete proof that dude even exists. So,
Okay. Wow.
So how's he going to exist when he's 70 if he doesn't even really exist now? Exactly. All right, you ready,
Makes
Brian?
you think.
So that's basically where I wanted to start, Brian. I wanted to start.
That was 11 already?
Yeah, that was 11. But I wanted to start with telling people that a lot of these time travel things can be debunked, but also don't just think that because it's time travel, oh, well, that doesn't exist from a scientific standpoint. That doesn't exist, so it's obviously bunk. It's obviously bull, because that's not always the case. All right, so I'm waiting for my computer to respond here. I got a couple other things that are pretty interesting ones. My research that I did, that I've done over my entire life and over the past day.
What Nick doesn't realize is I'm actually from the year 2158. And
See, you suck, Brian, because that's what I was going to do.
And
I was
I'm
going to
half
say,
reptilian.
I'm a fucking time traveler, and you don't even know it. All right? I'm the time traveler sent back, hence why I take trying to somehow inform the world of what's going on. I take it so seriously because I'm a time traveler from the year 2947, okay? Where we don't even have bodies anymore, okay? Bodies are a thing of the past. We're just all floating energy around. And some of us floating energies got together and said, hey, you know what? We're going to travel back into the past on our UFOs. So then we abducted. I was really a 9-year-old kid. There was some 9-year-old kid that called himself Nick, and I abducted that kid and put my own consciousness into him. And I became weird from that day forward, but my parents were just like, maybe he's just going through a weird phase or he's coming into his own or something. And here I am. Whereas Nick's energy is still up on a UFO somewhere out in East Japan. But you know what? He is exploring the galaxy, exploring the universe. While I'm down here trying to change things and trying to make it right, Brian. See, I can go into detail. Get me on Art Bell. I'll go into detail.
Somehow I believe him.
Get me on Art Bell. Well, if you can get on Art Bell and tell your time travel story, you're going to be believed by somebody. For sure. For sure. All right. You guys ready? Hey, Rich, you ready? All right, cool. Good to know. All right. So, this is my rundown of the time travel things, all right? As far as time travel goes, I guess I'll speak for Rich real quick because Rich couldn't be here today. But I really think Rich was going to speak on how time travel is theoretically possible, how we can take the fabric of the universe and fold it back down on top of itself. So point A is now lined right up with point B, and they're no longer, you got to go from here to all the way over to point B. Now you can just go from point A and fold point B to right underneath the point A and just punch a little hole right through and go from one to the other. Like, that's how it's theoretically possible, but we still have yet to be able to do that or even conceive of how to do
We
that.
don't know what CERN is doing.
But
and
there's
other places similar to CERN.
Well, yeah, CERN, but CERN is creating...
CERN's just the one we know the most because it was recently...
I hear a lot of people talking about CERN as being some sort of a time travel thing, but I don't hear much actual science being talked about it other than, well, they're creating little mini black holes. And some people have said, I traveled through time because they put a bunch of those little mini black holes together and I was able to walk through to another point in time and space. And it's like, I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure the anybody's goal who's involved with CERN is time travel. I think that could eventually be a result of the work that's being done with CERN, and that could be maybe an accidental result that we may stumble across. But I don't believe there's anybody at CERN or anybody involved with CERN that is like, we're building a time machine. Hell yeah, Doc Brown, be jealous.
Well, you know,
We got
certain elites
1.21
of the
gigawatt
world,
batteries.
certain elites of the world would love to have
But certain elites of the world, I believe, already either have access or have had access to that sort of thing. Like shadow governments.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? That's what I believe
our
they've
age,
been involved
we
in.
grew up with what? Terminator came back in time to kill John Connor. Do you remember Time Cop with Jean-Claude Van Damme?
I remember the movie. I don't remember anything about it or the plot or anything. But obviously
Something
it's
about
a
they go back in
cop
time
from time.
to stop criminals.
I'm a
before-
cop from time. Time cop.
But then you get into something like Tom Cruise's Minority Report,
Mm-hmm.
where they could actually predict the immediate future and deploy the police with, maybe 30 seconds before the crime would have been committed. And I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Things.
There's a lot of
I'm sure
different,
they have something, but we
See,
can't
I'm not
say what.
so sure that they have something. I'm sure somebody has something, but I'm not so sure it's they, as we like to think. If it's they, then maybe the shadow government has created this or has obtained this technology from a crashed UFO or something like that. I don't know. But I believe they do have the ability to do it, but I believe it would alter the damn timeline itself if we knew how they had the ability to do that. If me or you knew, or 99.9% of the general public knew, it would alter the timeline and it would just cause nothing but pandemonium. I don't know, man. I don't know. It's hard to, like, it's one of those things that it's actually easier for me to think about life after death than it is to think about whether or not time travel, I don't want to say is real, because I believe it is real, and I believe it has happened. But what facilitates it? That is so hard to fit into my little noggin here.
I just want to know how I can be like Dr. Manhattan.
Yeah, you're not going to be like Dr. Manhattan. It's not going to be. The truth of the matter is you are like Dr. Manhattan, and you've actually chosen at this point in time, or for a certain length of time, you've chosen to restrict your almighty powers and live like a normal person for a while. Because you've lived like this almighty for so long, and this almost deity for so long, that you want to know what it's like to be normal again and to not have full power and control and make anything happen at the snap of your fingers. And it's like that's not what this reality was created for. You know what I'm saying? So you wouldn't want to come into this reality with that power. Even though you could, it's like you want to come into this reality with a shell that nobody knows that you're Dr. Manhattan. You know what I'm saying? So in all reality, you are Dr. Manhattan, Brian. You are Dr. Manhattan, and the day you die, you'll realize it. Like, oh my God, it was
Why
true.
can't I blow you up?
Because you're in your shell. You're in your VW bug for this reality. All right, ready? Charlotte Ann Moberly. This is one from back in the day. 1901. Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain, principal and vice principal of St. Hugh's College, in 1901, while visiting a small chateau in Versailles, reported they had accidentally slipped back in time to the time of the French Revolution, claiming to have seen Marie Antoinette. This is purported to be one of the first time travel incidents that was reported by a well-respected or well-known source. So
interesting.
Very interesting, Brian. If you ask me, I found that one very interesting.
Is there any evidence to support it?
No. And that's what I'm saying. A lot of these things, there is no real evidence to support it. You know what I'm saying? Other than these people's eyewitness accounts. But when you really think about it, what kind of evidence can you really get from something like that? You know what I'm saying? What kind of evidence can really come from something like that? So I don't know. That's one to look into. Charlotte Ann Moberly and Eleanor Jourdain. It's one of the more famous ones because I think they were respected and weren't looked at as the type of people that would create a fanciful story like this. Okay. You know what I'm saying? December 2008, Chinese archaeologists opened an undisturbed 400-year-old Sea King tomb in Shaanxi County in China to discover a miniature Swiss watch, which was not an actual functioning watch. It was a little piece of metal, which I was not sure of for a little bit, but I was able to confirm that it was not an actual functioning small watch. It was actually a piece of metal molded or shaped into the exact shape of a watch with the details of a watch and the wristband and the face and hands and all that.
Okay, that's kind of creepy.
Yeah, exactly. With the time was frozen at 10:16, and the word Swiss was engraved in the back of it, on the behind the clock face. So that's pretty crazy because if that tomb was undisturbed for 400 years, how did that piece of metal of a Swiss watch, with Swiss watches 400 years ago, that wasn't even a thought in anybody's head. How did that end up in that tomb? You know what I'm saying?
And what's the significance of
time traveling? Huh?
What's the significance?
10:06, and I do not know. Do not know what the significance of that is. Could that, and it being miniature, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people say, oh, time traveler could have left that, but it being miniature, it makes me think. That's what I really love to think about in this world is how does something like that appear right there? You know what I'm saying? What event happened that created that little fucking watch in there? You know what I'm saying? Who or what created that little watch in there?
Yeah.
Was that watch at one time real and full size? Well, or was that a time traveler who somehow came back and was shrunk a little bit, but has still had his Rolex watch on and just put it down for a second, and then all of a sudden, like, realized he had to head back because something was coming down or something like that, and left his watch, and through the time traveling process, once he left, the watch no longer was an actual functioning piece of technology. It just turned into a solid thing of metal. I don't know. I love to think about the possibilities of how that watch got there. But that is a possible, one of the possible explanations for that is time travel, because how would a Swiss watch end up in something that hasn't been open for 400 years?
Very true. Very true.
So, another one of the more popular ones is 1935, a Sir Victor Goddard. I believe it's like Charles Victor Goddard, but I'll just say Sir Victor Goddard, a British Air Force officer, was flying a plane over an abandoned airfield at Drem in Edinburgh, Scotland. On his return trip, he saw the same airfield, yet renovated. Well, hold on. On his return trip, this was the story that I had seen on one video, and I was like, okay, I thought I heard of that. And then I watched another video where it gave the full explanation of that. Sir Goddard, on his way back, on his way to his destination, he passed over Drem Airfield. Drem Airfield was an abandoned airfield. Okay? Passed over it. It was abandoned. Just looking like an abandoned airfield. Probably some coyotes or cows or something.
Coyotes?
I don't know, right? On the way back, when he was approaching Drem Airfield, or a few miles before Drem Airfield, he hit a storm with yellow clouds, he said. And as he went into this storm, it got more and more violent, and he was losing control of his plane. So he pulled up and tried to get above the storm, which is what a lot of pilots will do if a storm is too dangerous. And he couldn't get out the storm. It wouldn't clear. And the higher he went, the more out of control his plane got, until it started to fall. When his plane fell, it fell to a point where he basically came out of the storm, and the storm cleared around him, and he couldn't even see it anymore. He couldn't see it behind him, couldn't see it above him. The storm basically disappeared. But when he came out of the storm, he was flying over Drem Air Base, and it was completely renovated. They had 4 yellow planes on the runway, and there were mechanics walking around on the ground in blue uniforms. And he was like, literally a day or two ago, I flew over this place, and it was an abandoned airfield. How is this even possible? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And as he flew over it, literally just as he got past Drem Airfield, he came across the same storm again. Same storm formed right in front of him, and he was inside of it, struggled for control of his plane, and then finally came out of it and was able to land at his landing spot. And I guess nobody believed him, or he didn't want to tell anybody because he didn't think anybody would believe him. And then years later, the Air Force, the Royal Air Force, or the British Air Force changed. At the time, they didn't have any yellow planes, and their mechanics wore brown. But a few years later, they changed their mechanics' uniform colors to blue, and they had new planes that were painted yellow. New planes that were that had come out that were painted yellow. So this guy literally jumped into the future for a second, and Drem Airfield had been renovated. After a few years, Drem Airfield was renovated. They had new yellow planes, and the mechanics were now wearing blue instead of brown. So everything he saw didn't make sense to him until a few years later when it all changed, and he was like, I saw the future for a second. I don't know how, but I saw the future.
I don't know if you have anything on this at all, but what do you think Bermuda Triangle?
I don't know about Bermuda Triangle. I think we'll have to do a whole show on Bermuda Triangle one day, because there's so many different things that it could be. There's so many people that say it's nothing. There's a lot of people who say, oh, it's definitely is something. There's other people that say that the Bermuda Triangle is actually one of, I think, 12 or 24 different vortexes, energy vortexes like that around the world, and they're all spaced proportionately away from each other. So it's evenly placed all around the world are these energy vortexes, and weird things happen at these energy vortexes. But I'm not
there
really
you
sure.
Go, flat earthers. That's why your planes don't fly in a straight line.
Yeah, it could be.
They're avoiding the vortexes.
I don't know. We'll have to do a flat earth show. And I guess we'll have to do a flat earth show when we have, any and everybody that comes across this show knows from the get-go that we are not going to take one side or another. and that we should not be harassed for not taking one side or another just because somebody thinks, well, it's stupid to take that side or it's stupid to take this side. We're going to give both sides of the shit, give our opinion, and then let you decide what you want to believe. Okay? Even if we know 99% of you are going to believe one side of it, we're not going to say, oh, well, that's the side we're going to cling to because we don't want you 99% of the people watching this to think that we're stupid. No, we're going to give both sides. And that's one of the things where the flat earth thing, I think we should touch on, just so that, one, we can say we did touch on it, and two, we can say we objectively touched on it and didn't just say, no, but you gotta believe it, man. No, it makes so much sense when you really think about it. We're not those type of people. We're going to touch on it objectively and really figure out not what the truth is, because I don't know if we can know the truth unless we have literally a rocket that we can shoot up out of the atmosphere with a camera on it and see the curvature of the earth or not. We're not going to know. And until I can do that, I'm not going to make the decision myself. I don't really care, okay? I don't feel like, oh, well, there's some massive, huge conspiracy going on to have everybody believe that we live on a ball when we really live on a flat plane. But if we have everybody believing that we live on a ball, then that's some massive deceit that leads to all these other things being able to be perpetrated on us and yada, 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 and it leads down a whole nother road, and it's like, well, you're not even talking about flat earth anymore. You're talking about, like, some other crazy conspiracy you got, and it's like something doesn't seem right. And it's like I see kind of with flat earthers, I didn't even realize flat earthers was really a thing, and it's gaining traction.
It's a thing.
It's funny that it's gaining traction, but I see kind of the same thing with flat earthers that I originally saw with chemtrails. And I personally ignored because I was like, I kind of want to believe that there's something going on up there. And I'm not saying nothing's going on up there, but everything points to it, and I'm so sure of it. And when you get like that, every little piece of evidence, you can convince yourself that something that is not evidence to support your theory, you can convince yourself that piece of evidence is actually evidence to support your theory when it comes down to it because of this and that, and I got to do these mental gymnastics to explain it to you, but you don't know, and it's like, well, no, sometimes the things are simpler than they are. You know, sometimes truth is stranger than fiction, but sometimes things aren't as complicated or as deep as people like to think they are, you know? So, I don't know.
Reptilian shapeshifters, I tells ya.
Reptilian shapeshifters. All right. So, I already talked about the, what do you call it? So, that was Victor Goddard. Crazy. One of the more well-known ones, Victor Goddard. See, that's what I'm saying. He wasn't some quack living on a farm. He was,
quack.
He was an Air Force pilot. It's like, what, is he going to make this stuff up? All right. Philadelphia experiment. Around October 28, 1943, at the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard, many stories abound. U.S. Navy experimented with a cloaking or invisibility shield, resulting in the transporting of the USS Eldridge to Virginia and back, and on return, men were melded with machine. Very deep, many layers, many accusations of large time jumps during the experiment. Take a look at Al Bielek. Al Bielek, you can either listen to him and be like, wow, and open your mind to the possibility that he could be telling the truth, or you can immediately dismiss him as being a nut job and really just not be interested in anything he has to say. But if you've done any of your research on MK Ultra, on the Montauk Project, Montauk Station, what is the other one? Philadelphia experiment. He knows a lot of stuff that is either he's done more research than anybody else, but then again, like, I'm pretty sure nobody's debunked that he wasn't on the Philadelphia or wasn't on the USS Eldridge. You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure it's been clearly stated or clearly known that he was on the USS Eldridge. Maybe he lost his mind and made all this up. Who knows? But that is one that can get real deep.
Surely if he was and something like that happened, he would have been forced to sign a non-disclosure agreement, even back then.
No, he was what do you call it? He was pushed through time. And with certain things, you're not required to sign a non-disclosure agreement because you'll just sound like a nutcase and you'll alienate yourself by telling people about it. It's 100% true. You know what I'm saying? Think about it. Do you think that all of the people, I'm not saying there's been thousands, but I'm sure there's been maybe close to 100 or a little less than that, maybe even a little more. People that have talked about what they've seen working at Area 51.
True.
Do you think all of those people have been required to sign an NDA?
Even worse, Dulce. The Dulce base.
That's what I'm saying. You think those people have been required to sign an NDA? Maybe. But the NDA don't mean anything. The NDA means if they legally mess up, they can be legally held liable.
You just touched on a good point.
They're just alienating themselves to talk about this crazy stuff because to the everyday person,
that's true.
They look like I'm nuts.
Because these people that come out and say, "Yeah, I worked on Dulce base, and anything under level 13 is aliens only." Like
they just look like
you instantly, even the educated mind can't help but chuckle when they hear somebody say that.
Yeah,
like
exactly,
what, dude?
Exactly.
Yeah, they're down there doing experiments on us and stuff. Exactly. 97. That's where 97% of the general public says, "Oh, this guy's just crazy."
Yeah,
or he's looking for attention. He's full of shit.
So I don't know. That's I don't know. There's a lot more to be said about that. So I don't know. Philadelphia experiment is something to look into. A lot of people should look into that because that one is so interesting. If it really happened, if it didn't happen, then we've all been duped into really believing some fanciful.
Not to be
story.
Confused with the incident in Philadelphia where they blew up an entire city block.
No, that's the move. That's the move incident. MOVE, capital M, capital O, capital B, capital E, incident. I know there's another name for it, but I can't think of it off the top of my head. The bombing of Osage Avenue. That's what it is.
Yeah, I was going to say bombing.
All right, ready? 1941, South Fork Bridge reopening in Golden Bridge, British Columbia, Canada. Photo from event shows what seems very much to be a time traveler. And that's the guy we were talking about earlier.
Yep.
He is... I don't know. He looks like a time traveler. I guess that's all we can really say because that's all we really know. He looks like a time traveler.
He looks very out of place for that time and place.
You can speculate more, but you're not really going to get much more info than just that picture. Known as a time-traveling hipster, that guy. The Montauk Project, rumored to be a tunnel underneath Montauk Air Force Base or Air Base that allowed scientists to travel back to 1943. Derived from or exposed by Preston Nichols and Al Bielek in 1980s, stating they were remembering suppressed memories from their time working in the Montauk labs.
Which could be very possible.
And believe it or not, I believe it was Preston Nichols, or was it Al Bielek? One of the two, Preston Nichols or Al Bielek, I believe it was Al Bielek, was the first person to expose MK Ultra. And people were like... That's nonsense. That's stupid.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, whatever, dude. Yep, okay. But some people listen to him like, man, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? Some people really listen to him. And then all of a sudden it got publicly exposed. And some of those people, it was like, oh, God. He was just like, we were thinking like, oh, this guy's full of it. He doesn't know what he's talking about. He's making stuff up, this and that. They were like, maybe we should listen to this guy.
Yeah.
Maybe he knows some stuff, or maybe not everything he says is
No,
just
I think by then
nonsense.
there was already enough fluoride in the water and bullshit in the vaccines that people were like, oh, that dude wasn't crazy. Okay,
what I'm saying is
topic.
that will explain to people why there are videos of Al Bielek talking about his whole experience on Philadelphia experiment and at Montauk. There's videos of him talking about it, and it's not just... Oh, he's got 50 views and the video itself has got 50 views and nobody cares. And it's like people are actually very interested because it's like the guy, some of the stuff the guy's talked about has actually been publicly exposed as being true and being real. So it's like, how discredible is this guy? Or how can you really discredit this guy when something he talked about where it sounded like completely out of this world and not that's not happening. Sorry, buddy. That comes out to be true. It's like, well... How can we say that about the other stuff? Oh, that's not happening. Sorry, buddy. About the other stuff, what if that comes out to be true? Like, maybe we should listen to them. Maybe we're getting a little hints of the truth, you know? And maybe there's somebody else out there that wants us to think he's crazy, you know? So, I don't know.
Which is most likely the case. That's one thing they will do to demonize patsies and fall guys that don't play along.
Yep.
Just make them out to be crazy.
Yeah, they do. Trust me, I know.
So nobody will...
From experience, I know. We talked about Rudolph Fentz. Just the fact that he was holding things from 1876 and it was 1950, and they looked like they were obviously from 1876, but they looked like they were brand new, or they looked like they hadn't aged 75 years. Whether or not that's true, that's debatable. You know, my personal conclusion on that is that it's true, and that is the type of thing where it's going to be swept under the rug slightly. because it's unexplainable. You know what I'm saying? Like, do you hear anybody talking, or did you hear about it on the news, or did any of our parents mention to us that they heard about it on the news?
No.
But I'm saying about the guy who got out of jail and for some reason was making it rain inside. Somehow was making it rain inside. And then when they finally took him back, he wasn't out of jail, like, for good, or wasn't, like, released from jail. He was out on jail on, like, a visitation thing to go visit his family or something. But he went visit his family, made it rain inside the house.
What the hell?
Went back to...
How the hell?
Exactly. How the hell? It's not like he was like, I am making it rain, or make it rain, I'll make it rain. He's not doing anything like that.
Okay, scientific explanation, he came back in time with a portable harp machine.
Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe in the future
that's what I'm saying. There's
lightning.
There's no good explanation. And, like, no, that guy's not a time traveler. It's just, like, you don't hear about that kind of weird stuff whatsoever. It kind of gets swept under the rug and saved for shows like Unsolved Mysteries, and that's about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But it gets swept under the rug, and it's like, there's a reason you don't really see that being talked about and constantly being brought up, because we can't explain it.
Remember
and if we can't
Quantum
explain
Leap?
it, Quantum Leap is my favorite show in the world. Al, man, Al's my boy. I'll tell you what. No, you can't do that now. All right, so the circus. We mentioned the circus, the DVD extras. I'm telling you, that chick does not have a cell phone. I'm telling you right now, it's not a cell phone. You know what the chick has? She's got big feet. Okay. Humongous feet. Humongous feet. All right.
A reptile shapeshifter.
All right, here's where it gets fun. The Mormons believe Joseph Smith was given CD-ROMs. Yep. CD-ROMs with ancient holy knowledge on them.
Really?
You know, because he had a Hewlett-Packard back.
Just throwing this out there, Lavoy Finicum was Mormon.
Oh.
Maybe he knew a little too much?
Maybe he did. Maybe
I really think
maybe he was harboring one of those CD-ROMs.
I really think they killed him because maybe if time travel is possible, maybe somebody on the elite side came back. Yo, this guy's spreading too much truth about the Constitution and land rights. You need to silence him. Because in the future, they're going to end up overthrowing us.
Yeah, they went back and gave him CD-ROMs, gave Joseph Smith CD-ROMs. He's like, what do I do with these? And they're like, we'll be back with a computer. And they're like, we got to stop him before he gets them back with a computer. Because he'll figure out how to get power to that computer. If it's a computer with a monitor, he'll figure out how to get power to it and play that CD-ROM. So we got to stop Finicum from getting back with an IBM. Because that's like John Titor. It's like he came back to the past to grab a computer to go back into the future to defeat Skynet or whatever. Basically Skynet. All right. Yeah, Preston Nichols was the first to expose MK Ultra before it was publicly revealed, leading many to believe his memories of Montauk.
On the real quick, there is a real system called Skynet that's up and running currently.
Cool.
Throwing that out there.
Cool.
Look it up.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I wish I was wearing my Skynet shirt. I'm wearing my I Want to Believe shirt. I have a Skynet shirt. I like it. I'm pretty proud of it. Philadelphia Experiment Extra crew member Edward Cameron has spoken out about his time-traveling experience. So if you type in Philadelphia Experiment Edward Cameron, you might come across some pretty interesting stuff. All right. Andrew Carlson. We already touched on him. He says he's from 2256. It's definitely worth looking into. Is he behind fracking and behind the massive the oil influx or the oil what is it? The oil
the flooding of the market.
The flooding of the oil market, exactly. Is he behind that? Because I think he may be. If the guy's even real, he might not be real. So that's the thing you got to be able to decipher. You can't just be like, time travel's real, so this guy's real. It's like, no. You can't just, and, it's hard to find any information that says he's not real. Well, where did the story originate from? Weekly World News. Mm-hmm. Weekly World News told me Bat Boy's flying around, too, and I ain't seen that motherfucker
Well,
yet.
if you ever saw Men in Black, you realize that they put the truth in Weekly World News because they know people won't believe any of it.
Always kept that in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Weekly World News, once in a blue moon, had a true story. Yeah. And they don't even know if their stories are true or not, but they're going to report on them like they're true because of the Weekly World News. Yeah. But every now and then you get this nut job who calls up the Weekly World News with some crazy out-of-this-world story, and they're like, all right, well, yeah, what? Okay, all right, yeah, that'll be in next week's issue. And it's actually real. And they're just thinking it's another crazy story that they can publish that'll sound off the wall. And it's like, it was actually real. And the people calling just sounded like they were losing their mind. And they weren't really losing their mind. mind, they were actually going through this real shit. So I don't know. Weekly World News could, but then again, use your brain. Weekly World News. All right, let's give that a 98% chance of not being real, unless we can find this company that Carlson started and find any evidence that Carlson actually still exists or did exist after this whole Wall Street thing. Because it's like you would think there would be some sort of legal documents around that Andrew Carlson was hauled in and being questioned. Right?
True.
You should. Somebody would have put a Freedom of Information Act
here's another
request
thing
in to get information about this.
Here's
if
why
it doesn't
I
exist,
think,
there's no information to get.
Here's why I think that there may have been some time travel involved with the whole Oregon situation. Now, they're going back and arresting all those people that were at the Bundy Ranch in 2014. The guys up on the militia guys up on the bridge with the guns that drove off the BLM. All of them are now being taken in.
Yeah. See, I've been under the belief for a long time that the United States has had the ability, and maybe not the United States, it could be some quasi-government or quasi-organization.
Oh shit, this family and this movement's going to take over 10 years from now if you guys don't do something, you know.
See, I think they've used it for good and they've used it for bad, and I think they probably used it for bad more than they have good, but they have the ability to look into the future and go back into the past. So they have the ability to see where we're at right now, where things are going to head. But they don't have the ability to actually send somebody into the future to try and affect it and change it and make it better, you know what I'm saying? Knowing what the actual cause might have been. But with that information from the future, being able to glimpse into the future, they've had the ability for a while now. Before they've had the ability to look into the future, they've had the ability to send people back into the past. It started with the ability to look into the past. Then it became the ability to send people back into the past, to affect the past, to literally affect the timeline. There's a show on, on Sci-Fi. I only did one episode called Rewind. It was like an hour and a half long or something. And it was exactly that, where they, with some sort of a CERN type thing, they were able to create portals. They pumped up the power 100 times more than CERN would ever do, and for some reason that created like a portal that they could walk in and out of, but it's like unstable and this and that. But they use those portals and they go back in time and affect history and change history for the better. You know, like trying to stop Abraham Lincoln from getting shot or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like they go back and try and affect history in a positive way. But when you see some of the things that have been done, and some of the ways that we've been duped, it almost makes you feel like they went back and changed stuff where our common sense would have kicked in and been like, we're not going to let this happen. They went back and did something back in the past that almost negated our common sense from being able to do that. From being able to stop them from doing that. You know what I'm saying? How are we all, like, okay with having Walmart be the only place to get, like, 98% of the stuff you need in your life? You know what I'm saying? How are we all okay with the massive, like, literally massive slaughter and genocide of cows and pigs and all that just so that we can eat some good food? It's like, I don't know. How's the sugar industry taken over the way that it has and become such an influence on everybody's life, every single human being's life? You know what I'm saying? It's like,
true.
How have we let how have we let the pharmaceutical industry get the way that it has? How have we let the political and the legal system get the way that it has? How have we let marijuana become? Hold on, do you maybe think Harry J. or was it Anslinger? No, it was the guy with the paper monopoly or whatever back in the day, and he's like, my paper monopoly is going to be threatened by hemp. We got to find a way to outlaw hemp. Do you think maybe he had the foresight, or was able to like kind of look into, or maybe even experienced and lived a future where his whole paper empire crumbled because of hemp. What is cremp? Crab people.
Oh,
no, his
God.
whole paper empire crumbled because of hemp, and hemp took over, and he didn't get in on the hemp market. And instead of coming back in the past and getting in on the hemp market and being the leader in the hemp market, he was like, no, I'm jaded by hemp. I hate hemp. I'm pissed that they destroyed my paper conglomerate, my paper empire. So you know what? I'm just going to make hemp the evil thing. I'm going to make everybody hate hemp and make it illegal so my paper empire just flourishes because hemp's not allowed to be around anymore. Hemp's bad. Let's find some way to make it some
Never
bad
mind
thing.
that hemp
Let's get
rope
people to
is some of
smoke
the
it.
strongest rope
Let's
you
get
can
people
ever-
to smoke that stuff. Yeah, let's get them to smoke it and then tell them it's real bad and it's a drug and it'll make them crazy. Well, of course, if you smoke half the stuff you pull out the ground, it's going to make you feel a little crazy. So I don't know, man. I'm telling you, how did we get duped into half of this stuff? Sometimes I'm like, are we really just that stupid? And then other times I'm like, no.
Yeah, we are.
But other times I'm like, no, we're not really that stupid. We'll like look at the advancements that we've made in this world. I'm sorry, we're not that stupid. I almost feel like we've been duped, and some sort of time travel has been used to allow that duping to happen to us. All right, so we want to go into war with what do you call it? We want to go to war with the Middle East and start a whole new war on terror. All right, we got these little things that we've had going on. You know, the bombing of the USS Liberty, or not the USS Liberty, I don't know. The different things that went on in the Clinton presidency.
Northwoods
the
document
little
classified.
things. No, not that. I'm talking about the terrorist acts that happened during the Clinton presidency.
The original World Trade Center bombing was, I think, Bush Sr.
Okay. Well, I'm
Then
talking about the
Clinton,
stuff overseas.
there was,
the terrorist stuff that happened overseas. There was
I couldn't tell you much
There was
about
like
overseas at that time.
an incident in Kuwait, right? There was another bombing. There's a couple different bombings, right? There's a couple different terrorist bombings, right? But they weren't changing our mindset. So think about year 2001 comes around.
Well, that's true.
And
Desert Storm was friggin' huge in the 90s, and then it was over, forgotten, and nobody
Yeah.
gave a shit about the Middle
well, think
East
about it.
anymore.
All of a sudden, we're saying the U.S. government is saying this terrorist thing is out of control. We need to go over and stop it now. And everybody's like, you're going to send our people, our children, to go over and fight these terrorist guys? When what have they done here? They saw that reaction, and they saw how we turned into like how it was like in Vietnam, like bring our kids home, bring our kids home. They don't deserve to be over there. And they're like, what? Like, come on, support your country. And then all of a sudden they were like, well, you know what we could do? We could send what's his name? Tim Osman, right? We can send Tim Osman back. We can send him back to, like, I don't know, March 2001 or something, and just have him bomb the country. Bomb, like, one of our biggest assets to this country, and then everybody will be like, take my kids, go get these motherfuckers. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, I think time travel has been used to dupe us and to advance somebody's agenda. You know what I'm saying? And it's sad if that's the case. And part of me feels like
your
if that's the
working
truth,
theory-
we can't know.
Your
If that's the
working
truth,
theory
we
is
can't
Osama
know.
bin Laden is from the future, and he went back to 2001 to attack the World Trade Center.
Yep.
Okay.
And we were about to give up on politics. In 2008, we were literally about to give up on politics. We were about to start off on our road of giving up politics. Giving up on politics. All right? Because we were about to either have Hillary Clinton in there or John McCain. Okay? And they said, they watched that happen. They watched Hillary Clinton take office, and they're like, the country's fed up. They're like, another Clinton in here, and it's the same old MO. Same old Democrat-Republican MO, but nothing's really changing. You know what I'm saying? You want to tweak little things, and then say you're doing these grand things. Well, you're not. Nothing's changing. We're done with it. But then all of a sudden, they're like, we got this guy named Barry Soetoro, okay? We got him on Mars right now. But here's what we're thinking. We send him back to, we'll say, 2004. Okay? We have him get in there, and we make him a junior senator. We find a way to get him in as a junior senator. Then all of a sudden, 2008 comes rolling around. We have him run for president. And that whole time, we have him study how to get the youth on your side. What to say to get the youth on your side. And we
It looks
have a
to
whole
me
plan.
more like he studied on how to undermine the Constitution as a constitution.
That's not what it was. That's not what it was about. You're thinking from the conspiracy mind. Don't step out of the conspiracy mind for a second and think about what would have happened if we all gave up, especially the youth.
They would lose control.
Gave up on the political system after 2008.
It'd be a revolution.
If Hillary was our president and everybody gave up. Maybe not a revolution, but the political system would turn more and more and more and more into a joke, especially for the young people who you need young people to care about the system, because as the old people die off, if the young people don't care, then nobody cares. You know what I'm saying? You're losing more and more people that care each time. So, like, how do we get the young people to get excited about a candidate? And really get excited, because nobody was getting excited about Hillary. You had fucking bitchy ladies who were feminists or whatever they are out like defending Hillary, but it's like you didn't really have like
that's all she has now.
You didn't have huge rallies like with a whole bunch of kids and this and that. It's like, how do we do what Ron Paul does? How do we get our candidate in, but get the support like Ron Paul gets? And they figured it out with Obama. And that's all it was. Obama's just a time traveler. That's why nobody really knows about Obama. And everything's like, ooh, who knows? And maybe Obama was born in Kenya, but Obama was born in Kenya 50 years from now when Kenya's a United States state. And he's like, well, technically, I'm allowed to be your president. That's why y'all just need to shut up. Okay? You know what I'm saying?
I see what he did there. Okay.
I don't know. All right. So, and that's where you get into Andrew Basiago and Project Pegasus. He claims from 1968 to 1972 he was sent back in time multiple times, including to the Gettysburg Address, also claims to have met Obama on Mars. So, Pegasus Project, if you're interested, look up Project Pegasus. Which could be BS. I don't know if there's been anything that's been declassified of an actual Project Pegasus, but I don't know if anything would ever surface or could be declassified of a Project Pegasus or of a time-traveling group or organization within our government or within our military. Markawasi Stone Forest. I believe it's somewhere in Japan or China or some shit like that. Possible interdimensional time door there. There's some lady who went there on a camping trip and out of the blue literally ended up getting hemiplegia, which is half of your body becoming paralyzed for life out of the blue. It just happened to her. And it's like, how did that happen? A lot of people suspect that she may have actually stepped into a time door and was pulled away from the time door, where she would have disappeared forever had she gone fully into the time door. But when she was pulled away from the time door, part of her actual like energy that powers the half of her body went into the time door, and that's why she can't move that part of her body. It's some pretty crazy stuff. And it could have just been maybe something happened to the chick that has nothing to do with interdimensional time doors. But it's fun to speculate, isn't it?
It is. Theorizing in a bubble is always fun.
Mm-hmm. And then there's also been a nickel found from 2067. I did not look into that one too deeply, so I don't know if that's been debunked or not. I don't know. I'm assuming that it really would not be that hard to create your own nickel press. Yeah, I'm sure it's probably somewhat illegal.
Counterfeit.
But if you're only making one for a
joke,
a joke, or trying to pull a hoax on people, those are them.
Damn, cops are up to something today out there.
But I'm assuming it wouldn't be that hard to create that sort of thing. And I'm also wondering, in 2067, do you think Jefferson would still be on our nickel, and that our nickel, the design of our nickel, wouldn't change within the next 60 years or next 50 years?
You never know.
I don't know either. So, I guess that's all we got. Check out that nickel, yo. Check out that nickel, yo! And me and Brian are both time travelers from the year 3000! From the year 3000! In the year 3000, you will no longer use a cell phone. You will dial up your asshole and talk out your mouth. In the year 3000, in the year 3000. So, that wasn't as good as I'd like it to be, but for coming off the top of my head, not too shabby. All right, kids.
Yeah, what he said.
I think it's been a fun show. I think we went way over our time limit.
Yeah, it was a bit of a long one.
Yeah, way over. So that's going to have to wrap it up.
Bit of a long one today, folks.
We're going to go back in time. It's funny. I was looking for...
Yeah, can we get those 2 hours back?
I was looking for, what do you call it? Documentaries, looking for the videos, longer videos, more than 5-minute videos about time travel. And... of course, I come across this really awesome documentary. Like, oh man, I'm so happy to watch it. I'm so excited, can't wait to watch it. And what's it about? It's called Back in Time. About freaking Back to the Future. Of course I had to watch it, you know what I'm saying? It's so good. But that made me realize why I was so excited for this week's episode was because out of all the movies that I ever watched as a little kid, I can always get into a movie and let my imagination take over. Back to the Future was the most, like, it made the most sparks go off in my head. It was the
For
most
me, it was
amazing
Ghostbusters.
thing to watch. No, Back to the Future all day. Even Back to the Future 3 was half decent just because of the time travel element.
True.
But the whole idea of time travel, paradoxes, grandfather paradoxes, trying to understand what your life's going to be like in the future, trying to understand what you're going to look like in the future, what kind of technology there will be in the future, what is everyday life like in the future. Okay, on that same exact note, let's flip it around. What was everyday life like 30, 40 years ago? Okay, that you actually have evidence and can see what it was like, but you still don't know unless you lived it. You still can't viscerally feel it, but it's still so interesting to think about of what was technology like 50 years ago? Okay, we know a lot of the answers, but some of the answers we don't because we weren't really there. Some of the answers there are answers, and we think, oh, well, there just wasn't. They didn't use phones back then. Well, of course they used phones back then. Okay, well, what was it like to use a phone? Was that almost like a special occasion or special occurrence? Like, oh, I've got to call the operator now and ask her to put me through to Patty.
Well, you remember on Lassie, they were on the phone every day.
Well, that's Lassie, and that's also the 50s. I guess I'm talking about 50 years ago. Okay, so I'm talking about 100 years ago. What was it like? I like to think, like, the further we get from our technology, and I also like to think about with the future, the further we get from our technology. But it's scary.
Then we'd be in Star Trek land.
Well, it's scary to think where our future is going, but it really is fun to think about. But I guess it's scary to think that if time travel has been real, then our future is almost already being written for us. You know
our future is not set.
It's
There's
like
no fate but what we make.
It's like somebody knows the end of the game, and as we're playing through it, is coming back, and right before we hit each challenge or each checkpoint in the game, right before it, they're coming in and changing the way the game is supposed to be to either make it more difficult, more hard, or the way that they want it to be. Screw your game. It's their game. Their game too, and they want it to be this way. And it's like, that's aggravating to know that somebody else could have some control, not over my life, but over the world that I live in and the events that are going on in the world that I live in. You know? Like, I almost feel like 9/11, when I think about 9/11, my overwhelming thought about 9/11, and it comes from like a spiritual place, 9/11 was not supposed to happen. For some reason, 9/11 did happen, but 9/11 was not supposed to happen. In the original, in the timeline of things, 9/11 never happened. In the real timeline of things, 9/11 never happened. So why did it happen?
Oh shit! If we don't do this now, there's going to be a mass awakening. You guys are going to be out of control within 10 years.
I don't know, Brian. I don't know.
Maybe that's where the prediction that Obama
and also,
would be the final president came from.
We come across these scientific breakthroughs, like how we, for the longest time, were told we'll never really be able to reach other planets because we can't figure out how to accelerate past combustion acceleration,
yeah.
Combustion. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't figure out how to get past that.
We don't have a warp drive yet.
But in the last 3 months, we've had a breakthrough on that, and now all of a sudden, it's like the fastest that we can go has been pumped up by like 10 times or something. And it's like, whoa. Where is that really from? When you start to think about the time travel thing, is that really from innovation and genuine thought and genuine work put into it, or is that somebody that came back from the future and was like, here, and rattled off like 3 or 4 pages of the code, cracking the code for them? You know what I'm saying? It's like, here you go. You know what I'm saying? You're not. You know what? Moving fast enough.
Did you ever watch the old Star Trek movies? Not the new ones with Chris Pine and Zach Quinto. I mean the old ones with Shatner and Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah.
Okay, do you remember Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home?
Yeah.
They go back in time to rescue the whales.
But
while they're there, they need, what was it, to build the tank? The transparent aluminum or whatever. Hasn't been invented yet. Scotty gives the fucking recipe to the dude back in the 1980s.
that actually happens in the second new Star Trek, kind of like it, where
I don't remember any time travel in that.
what? Are you serious? How's
It's been a
Old
while
Spock?
since I've seen it.
The second new Star Trek, the new
Well, Old
one.
Spock was in the first one.
No, Old Spock
At the
was in the
very end.
second one.
At the very end.
All right. Well, the second one featured him like big time because he was fucking. He came back and was time traveling, but he also Scotty couldn't figure out how to get warp drive past like 9 or something, or 9.2
remember that
or
part.
something, and then Old Spock talked to young Scotty and basically gave him the code.
Okay,
because
yeah,
Scotty is the one who invented it anyway, so he's like, there's not really much of a difference if I give it to him now or he figures it out 10 years from now or 5 years from now. He kind of needs it now. If we're going to survive right now, he kind of needs it now.
Yeah.
It's like kind of the same thing. And it's like, has that happened? And you might think, well, that's kind of a good thing. Well, that accelerates advancement and this and that. And it's like, okay, it accelerates advancement now, but in the natural order of things, are we screwing things up more and more? Are we screwing up like, okay, well, it makes things better now, but in the future that advancement no longer happens, and it's like there's a void there, and maybe nothing physical will happen, but people are going to feel that void, like how I kind of feel like the void with 9/11, like that wasn't supposed to happen. There's a void of what was supposed to happen, where that was supposed to be a regular day, and you know what I'm saying, they're supposed to be struggling, trying to convince us that they do need to go to war with terrorists, you know what I'm saying, instead of all of us thinking, well, we don't want another 9/11 to happen, you know. Brian?
Well, what do you think about how Bill Cooper predicted it a few months in advance?
I predicted it before him. Now, I actually have some exclusive, some exclusive information for anybody that watches this show. Okay, watches or listens to this show.
This ought to be good, ladies
No, this
and
is exclusive,
gentlemen.
okay? I have exclusive
information.
Exclusive information that within the next 3 months, it's very hard because it does involve time travel, okay? Some sort of time travel. Within the next 3 months, I will be physically receiving a copy, okay? A copy of a video made in 1991 or 1992 of somebody knowing the full details and events of 9/11. In 1991, 1992! It's all because of time travel, Brian. It's all because of time travel. I'm going to be getting my hands on that. Time travel, son. Time travel. Time travel, Brian. Time travel. It's all about time travel. So this is exclusive. And I'm not even playing. I'm smiling because it's so, like, it could change the world.
It could.
But everybody's just going to think we're crazy anyway, that it's nonsense.
What is this thing called, in case I want to look it up myself?
There's no looking up. It doesn't exist anywhere
Oh.
but from my source. And my source is, I don't know right now. My source could be in freaking, what do you call it? Could be hanging out with Fred Flintstone, for all I know. Or hanging out with Fred Flintstone or George Jetson, one or the other. He ain't here. Tell you that much. But Bill Cooper ain't got shit on this. Alex Jones ain't got shit on this. Nostradamus might have shit on it. But nobody else has got shit on this, alright? It's original.
Okay.
And in all reality, when it comes down to it, there's going to be a large lesson to be learned from this tape or from this video. Okay? There's going to be a much larger lesson to be learned for the entire world, for humanity, from this video. But first off, we got to see the video. Because I'm being told there's a video, somebody out there who knew about 9/11 and the details of it in 1991 or 1992. Now, did they know from somebody who was planning it or planning on doing something like that in 1991 or 92? Or did they go into the future and see it happen and come back and tell us about it? Or at least try and record what they thought they saw. Maybe they were afraid to put it out because they thought people would think they were crazy. And by the time 9/11 came around, the tape was missing. And it's like, okay, I have a tape from 1991 or 92 of me saying fucking LeBron James is going to win the MVP. And it's like, well, that don't mean shit if you can't find that tape when LeBron James wins the MVP. You can say, but I made a tape back then. People are going to be like, yeah, okay, buddy. Sure you did. You know?
True. Yeah.
So
yeah.
when it finally surfaces, it's still just as powerful as it was, you know, on the day of 9/11 when it became an accurate prediction. It's just as powerful, just because it hasn't been found or discovered till now.
Well,
And it still hasn't been discovered. That's what I'm
until
saying.
you physically have this tape in your possession, I'm going to go with Bill Cooper predicted 9/11 a few
that's
months
fine.
in advance.
That's fine. Bill Cooper.
When
for
I
now.
see proof of 1991, 1992,
That's
10 years in advance, I mean...
10 years in advance. Can you believe that? Well, on that note,
Well, Clinton declassified Northwoods in what, the mid-90s?
I don't know. Probably. My brain is not on Northwoods. Yeah. I think it was 96, wasn't it? 95?
Sounds about right.
I don't know. Didn't he come? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was.
Did you say didn't he come?
No, I'm trying to remember, like, if it was before his first presidency ended or just after his second one started. Or his term. Whatever. I don't know.
I don't remember.
Brian, we're sitting here and time is ticking.
It is.
Time is money. And that's one thing when it comes to time travel. Shit. You don't want to time travel because you know what's going to happen when you travel to the future? All that time that was money that you could have been collecting money for that time,
You're
well,
broke.
you skipped.
Yeah.
So you skipped all that money. So you get to a time where you don't have money. All right? That's a problem with time traveling. You can try and travel to the future, to the past, but if you don't have money,
Well, here's what you do.
you're still fucked.
You come to now, and you get a little bit of money, and you go back in time and make some really wise investments, come back to now, and you're good.
Yeah, but how do you protect those investments while you're traveling through time? Because technically you're not even in existence at that moment. While you're traveling through time. For
Well,
the 30
when you go
years
back
or
in
whatever.
time, you tell one of your ancestors.
Yeah, when your ancestors are going to be like, that motherfucker disappeared. Oh, that's my shit now. Legally, that's mine. People are too greedy. You know, you could say, I'll give you half of it, but once you're going for 10 years and they see $1 million sitting there growing, they're like, that's my money. That's my money. Then when you come back, they're like, get out of my face, old man. I don't even know you. You know, you're like, no, we're supposed to split. What are you doing? It's like, a split. You know what? I got a Ferrari to drive.
In 1892.
1892. Hey, Doc Brown had a DeLorean, didn't he? All right. That was just a movie. I know. Chill out, Nick. Calm down, Nick. Just a movie. All right. That was a great show. Wonderful show. Time travel. Rich, thanks for being here. Hey, he was here. He was here in spirit. I know
He was here in spirit.
He was. So, I guess we'll see you next week. I don't know exactly what the topic is going to be. I think,
We'll work on that.
yeah, we're going to have to work on it. It's definitely going to be a doozy. Maybe UFOs, some sort of UFOs. Maybe not. I don't know. Maybe. This is something I'm interested in. Maybe not next week's show, but a show coming up is...
Flat Earth.
Flat Earth, definitely, but on another one is...
I want to shut those people up.
UFO abductees and mental health. Okay? UFO abductees and mental health. There's something to be examined there. You know?
What are you onto here?
I don't know. I just think
We'll have to wait and
there's
see.
a link there, and you don't see many links purported. You know, hey, I'm not saying UFO sightings.
Yeah.
I'm saying UFO abductees. But that could lead to sightings. So I don't know. Yeah, and Flat Earth. He wants to debunk them. He wants to shut them up. I don't want to shut them up because I believe even if you're completely out of your mind and you have no idea what you're talking about, you have the right to talk about it anyway. You know what I'm saying? You have the right to try and convince people that your nonsense should be their nonsense too, or they should believe your nonsense just because you believe it and you think it holds ground. Well, then they have every right to go out and try and push that on other people, but we have every right to objectively look at things. You know what I'm saying? Because no matter what, people who believe it are going to tell us that we don't know what we're talking about, and people who don't believe it are going to tell us that we don't know what we're talking about. So you know what? We're just going to take it from the middle. Because I think Brian probably leans more towards that we live on a ball. I lean more towards I don't give a fuck, but we may live on a spherical shaped thing. And my belief on that is we live on the back of a turtle. A giant turtle wading through the universe. Okay, which science tells us is completely wrong. But
Well, the Bible tells us there's a glass dome over us called a firmament, and there's more water above that firmament.
Yeah, see, I don't like
That's
I don't like biblical
where,
explanations.
That's where a lot of the flat Earth theories come from. They all quote the dome. We're under a dome.
See, I don't know.
It's like they think Earth is like the arena in the Hunger Games, just a really big version of it.
Which you never know, Brian. You really never know. If you go to Antarctica, it seems like a whole nother world. It seems like the outskirts of our world. You know, I don't know. Seems pretty weird, Brian. And I don't know. See, here's my thing: is because it's such an outlandish and stupid concept that so many people out there, even some things that you would normally question and be like, I think I want to look into that myself because I can't make that make sense. Like, screw what they're trying to tell me it doesn't make sense. In my own logical mind, I'm trying to make sense out of it, and I really can't come to I can't debunk it, or I can't come to an obvious common sense conclusion. So I want to look into it. Instead of doing that, people think it's an outlandish or a stupid idea, and they're like, even something where maybe I should look into that, or maybe I'm a little bit curious. They're scared to look into it.
I looked at the flat Earth arguments.
I don't want to be a flat earther or this or that. And
I looked at what they were putting out there. Okay, yeah, it's pretty convincing shit. Yeah, but just no.
Well, I'm also of the belief that you can be convinced of anything. The internet can convince you of almost anything. The internet can convince you that humans once grew tails that look like dicks. You know what I'm saying? Like, the internet can convince you of literally almost anything.
True.
You know what I'm saying? The internet can have you believing that there's a vampire fucking outbreak at night, and that there's that there's werewolves, or that Freddy Krueger is actually haunting your dreams. You know what I'm saying? Like, the internet can convince you of absolute nonsense. But with that one, here's my thing. If there's ever somebody that I find talking about something that is the most outlandish thing in the world, if I'm listening to that person or I'm watching that person and I feel like that they are smarter or more educated than myself, then I refuse to say that's complete and absolute nonsense. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying I know for a fact that person's smarter or more educated than myself. But if I part of me believes that they are smarter or more educated than myself, I say, how can I dismiss this when this person who may be more educated than me, or maybe actually more intellectual or intelligent than me, they're not dismissing it? Who am I to dismiss it? And doesn't that go along with being ignorant and being like wanting to be stupid, that because something sounds stupid, I refuse to listen to it? Well, like, some of the shit, you know what I'm saying? Space travel sounded stupid 100 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Somebody talking about, like, we could actually go into space. It's like, that would have sounded absolutely stupid. And
well, there's also the theory that we live under this dome and we never really went to the moon, and that's why Stanley Kubrick filmed it.
Well, there's that kind of theory.
Oh my God, we've been going for a while.
Yeah, we're at 2 hours, so I think we should probably just wrap it up. There's a lot of theories. I don't know.
We'll get into those next week.
Yeah. So, what was it again? What was it we were just talking about?
You didn't.
I did. I fucking spaced out, man. We must be talking about something to do with space, because I have spaced out,
God.
my friend. What were we just talking about? Theories on what? Brian?
Yeah.
What were we talking about? Theories on what? Because we're off time travel. I guess that's like
Flat Earth.
Flat Earth. See? Theories on Flat Earth. Because there's theories on Hollow Earth. There's a lot of different ways that we can
Stanley Kubrick filmed the moon landing. Because we can't go to the moon because there's a dome over the flat Earth.
If you want to prep yourself for next week's show, considering that he's going to be talking about Stanley Kubrick and Flat Earth, check out a movie called Capricorn 1 with O.J. Simpson.
Yeah.
Check that movie out, and it'll definitely prepare you for next week's show. We're going to be talking about maybe we didn't go to the moon. Of course, it's not going to be another moon episode, but we may be talking about that. And to kind of prepare your brain for that possibility and not just think, oh, these guys think the moon landings were fake? Oh, jeez, they're so stupid. They don't know what they're talking about. Check out Capricorn 1.
Yeah,
and maybe get an idea of why we may think that. You know, it's not just always because, we keep an open mind to everything. Sometimes we've been influenced by certain things that make us a little more open to believing that something could be possible. We're not going to be concrete just because we saw something like, oh my God, it's so true because of Capricorn 1. But when you watch Capricorn 1 and then you start, like, you really start watching all the different theories, yeah, you can still throw half the theories out. But some of the theories actually hold a little more ground because you've actually had it put in context for you how it could actually happen and make sense and be held from the people, you know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. Check it out. It's been a great show. Rich, you better be back next week. I'm going to punch you in your balls. I'm going to punch you in your dick if you're not back next week. I will come to your house and punch you in your dick. I don't want to do that, but I will. Okay? I will punch you in the dick if you're not here next week, Rick. All right? Much love. Much love. Peace, love, chicken grease.
Yeah.
Peace in the Middle East.
You're so violent.
See, that's what I wish time travel was used for, peace in the Middle East, where I almost think they're actually trying to achieve that and doing the exact opposite because they don't know how to use time travel for peaceful means because they're the military and they don't have peaceful means. Even though they like to act like they do, there is no such thing as peaceful means to the military. So anything they touch ends up getting that violent grease on it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Instead of the golden touch and the peaceful touch of turning things into a peaceful situation where people feel peaceful. No. They put that tinge of violence.
And we have lost video.
Let the bodies hit the flow. Let the bodies hit the flow. Let the bodies hit the flow. Like that's the military machine. So you think about time travel? Think about that song. When you're thinking about time travel, let the bodies hit the floor.
Now I think about
when it comes to time travel and our what do you call it?
Now when I think about time travel, I think about Time by Pink Floyd.
Wasting away the moments and make up the long day. Yeah, I actually listened to was it The Wall? I think I listened to The Wall the other day. Woo! Man, get high and just sit there and listen to The Wall. That's some stuff your parents did and we don't do anymore. We don't sit and listen to just an album that was made to just be listened to in one shot and trip out on. Like, we don't do that. If you meet somebody that listens to Spangle, you might find somebody who does, but they might also be interested in LSD, shrooms.
Now, I'll say the Grateful Dead fans probably do.
Yeah, the Grateful Dead fans, but then again, Grateful Dead fans are few and far between anymore.
It's true.
It's the truth. It's sad. All right, we've ran this one into the ground. We've beat it like the dead horse that it is. So, everybody, have yourselves a great week. You can check us out on youtube.com/where we lied to. Also, check us out on facebook.com/3NM podcast. Look for me. I'm Nick Tesla on Facebook.
Brian McFadden
on Facebook. I'd say emails, but we've yet to ever receive an email from anybody. So as of today, we're cutting off the whole email thing. If you ask for it, we'll give it to you, but we're not giving it out anymore because you don't care. You know, the cremation of care about the email has commenced. So
we need to burn an effigy.
Yeah, no. Anyway, everybody have yourselves a great week. It's been a wonderful show. Sorry the video cut out, but it was just perfect timing. So, peace.
Later. Gesundheit. Gesundheit.
You know what I just did? Did you ever think that maybe when somebody sneezes, that there's a time traveler going through them?
Ooh.
Ew. Freaky. Creepy pasta.
Shit.
Peace.